Welcome back to the podcast. My friend is back again, author, journalist, and truth teller, and fellow patriot Mike McCormick joins us. And it's great to see you. You look great. You look rested, even though you live in the swamp.
Yeah, thanks, Ken. I live in the swamp, and well, it's rested because things are quiet here. Everything is shut down.
That's right. That's right. We're going to talk a little bit about the shutdown, but I want to talk briefly, and we were talking about it off air. I saw on your Substack, which you got to read Mike's Substack. It's one of the top out there. It's top tier. Don't even waste your time with major newspapers anymore. It's a waste of paper and trees. But you said your son had a project and he wrote a letter to President Trump, and then you all were shocked that he got a reply. So
Yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah. So Matthew's 14.
14.
He was 14 the end of school last year. So in seventh grade, he was 13. In seventh grade, his class had an assignment: write a letter to President Trump.
Okay.
And he goes to school in Bethesda. He's a middle school kid, and
Oh, that is in the swamp. Holy moly.
and he's not a great student. He's not an A student. He's the kid who sort of makes jokes in the back of the room, and he's a pretty good pickleball player. And he runs a racket with his buddy playing pickleball. So he writes this letter and didn't think anything about it. Well, about a month ago, a
Right.
letter shows up at this school addressed to him from the White House.
Oh,
And there was
man.
another letter to another kid in his class from the
Wow.
White House. So the other kid's letter basically is from President Trump, and the other kid had written a letter alongside Matthew back in the spring saying, "I'm really worried about climate change." And Trump basically wrote this kid a letter, and this is Bethesda, so this is the heart of the swamp.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody here, they're EPA affiliated or they're CDC affiliated. They love the Democrats here. They do not like Trump.
And they
And
buy
so
all that narrative fakeness.
Oh yeah, and they live it. I mean, they have to have it, and it's just reinforced everywhere you go, which is why I always have. There are a few of us in the area who like Trump. We kind of know who each other are and keep our mouths shut. I've always been that way in this
Yeah.
area, until I started writing my books and my Substack.
Well, I was just going to say, your books ruined that for you. Smart
Yeah,
pants.
yeah, they sure did. So anyway, Matthew gets this letter. They call him down to the office, and he thought he was in trouble. And they said, "You got a letter." So the other kid gets the letter. He wrote about, "I'm worried about climate change." Trump writes this kid back a letter, and he says, "Climate change doesn't exist." I mean, that's the quote from the letter. And I think that might have been the only thing he wrote in the letter. I don't remember. The other kid showed Matthew his letter, and he said, "Yeah, he just told me climate change doesn't exist." And that was like it, right?
Oh, my God. That was the best.
Doesn't exist. So Matthew opens his letter, and it's a really nice reply. "Thank you, Matthew, for your kind letter. Yes, America's going into a new golden age." And Trump starts listing all the things he's done. And this was last spring, and the things that he's going to do.
Right,
And he
right.
said, we look forward to, making America great again. Thanks for writing. And that's what he said. So Matthew got the
Wow.
letter. They've been doing this exercise in the school. The school's probably been around since the 60s. They've been
Okay.
doing this exercise every year in seventh grade since the 60s. Matthew was the seventh kid to get a letter. So whatever he said
Whoa.
to Trump, he was one of 7 kids in the history of the school to get a letter. And the other kid was the climate denier kid who got told it doesn't exist.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I
So
wonder
that's
how that,
Trump. I mean,
I wonder how that
so
went over.
I wrote the Substack. Basically, I worked in the White House in the stenographer's office from
Oh, yeah. For
2002
people
to
that don't know,
2018.
why don't you give your background again for new people to the
So,
show?
and I wrote this in the Substack. So
Yep.
there's an office in the White House called Presidential Correspondence. They get thousands of letters a day, literally thousands of letters a day from around the world and across the country.
Right.
And so getting a reply back is a big deal. So for some reason, this letter made it into the first reading. There's probably several layers of reading. It
Mhm.
got bumped up the ladder. The second reading was like, okay, yeah. And the two of them together, I think, was the reason. The third reading, and then the guy said, "Yeah, we're gonna send a reply." The replies are pre-typed. I mean, there's something that they've worked out the wording too. It's not Trump sitting down and writing these things, and
Hmm.
it's signed by an auto pen. But
Hmm.
and one of the things, so it's not easy to get letters into the White House. When we worked in the stenographer's office, because there's a fair amount of security there. So
Oh
when we
yeah,
worked,
especially during the global war on terror, it was like it would take months to clear because they were worried about what was that powder that they were worried about
yeah,
in the.
anthrax,
Yeah,
right?
everybody was worried about anthrax.
Right. There was an anthrax attack when
Yep,
I first started there in 2002. There was an anthrax attack through the mail in DC, and a bunch of mail people got
I remember
infected and
that.
died.
Yep,
Actually, it
I
was a
remember that.
bad thing. So we one time in our office at the stenographer's office, somebody mailed us a Christmas gift of like a Christmas tree, like a tabletop Christmas tree, and
Hmm.
the security system looked at the mail, saw this package, decided it was so suspicious. So we get a letter from them saying, "You got something in the mail. Here's a picture of what it was, but we blew it up." They had to blow it up. They couldn't,
Merry Christmas.
yeah,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Yeah, but you got this letter, so
We
if you
blew
want to
up
reply to it,
Christmas.
say thank you.
They blew they blew it up. They
Right.
didn't try to investigate. That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's government.
That was global war on terror, man. That was the early days, like
Holy moly.
2003 or something.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, it's I cannot even the biggest thing for me to understand right now is how quickly things are happening, like what we have in the Middle
Yeah.
East.
Right.
We had Comey charged last week.
Right.
Obama's coming in. He was indicted or something. He pled not guilty or something. I forget. Did he plead? Did he get indicted yet? What they
Oh,
want to? They're
oh
bringing
well,
him to testify, but then there's also now there's there was something released yesterday. I may have jumped the gun on that said there's enough there to indict him on conspiracy regarding what he kept back from Congress regarding Russiagate. Now they've
oh,
connected.
really?
Yeah,
Wow. That'd
they
be good.
said
I
that.
haven't seen that.
Yeah.
Um,
So, but
I
for
love
all
your
I
reporting
know,
because you get more, I get more stuff from you than I get from anywhere else. So this
oh
is
well,
great.
thank you, thank you. Considering you're living in there, you're
Yeah. So, just real quickly, where we live, DC is slowing down. The shutdown is underway. I think it's going to be a long time before it gets resolved.
Do you feel safer? Seriously?
DC with the yes with the my kids. My oldest son is 25. He's been in and out of DC on a subway several times. He feels a lot safer.
Good.
My daughter goes into DC with her high school friend. She's 17. They feel safer. I've been in
Great.
DC over the summer when the National Guard came and when they cleaned out all the weird homeless camps.
Yeah.
And people, I was at the Kennedy Center for like a free movie showing. They showed movie Moneyball, that movie with
Oh
Brad
yeah.
Pitt.
Yeah, it was a good movie.
It was a good movie, and they kind of had this freebie deal at the Kennedy Center. They showed outside on a wall of a parking garage. People from the neighborhood bring in their coolers and their beach blankets and just watch it free for a night and walk
Wow.
home. Well, there used to be a big homeless camp right around the corner, and it was kind
Wow.
of sinister. That's all gone. So I'm
Wow.
watching young ladies walking home carefree on an evening in DC. That
Wow.
hasn't happened for a long time.
Well, you don't
DC
see
is
that in the
safer.
mainstream media.
No, not seeing that. DC is safer and it's
Wow.
better. People are really understanding that it's um, made a big impact in the right way. And, some of the leftists try to make it sound like it's some impressive move, but it's not. And it's really
No,
starting
it
to
needed to
unfold.
happen because, I mean, how long do you let local law enforcement F up at that level where people are getting killed and women are getting raped and kids are getting beaten unconscious? How long do you let it
Yeah.
go?
Yeah. And they just would turn people back out on the streets that didn't need to be there. So that's the next level of the return to sanity, is to get the
Hmm.
courts to behave and the prosecutors to behave. So that's what we're working towards. I have been in touch with some prosecutors trying to get in front of them to do some grand jury testimony. Haven't heard back. We'll see. But I'm still working that. I have hopes that Joe Biden will be indicted and other people that I know I could testify about will be indicted. I have hopes.
Yeah,
But
for people that don't know, Mike's got quite the library full of books that he's written. His most recent is An Almost Insurmountable Evil: How Obama's Deep State Defiled the Catholic Church and Executed the Wuhan Pandemic. And we were just talking before we went on air that it's interesting that COVID and the vaccine reality is in the news again, and
right,
it's very aggressive on Capitol Hill. Not just Senator Johnson, but others now. You've got, Fauci's name has popped up again, and they're starting to dig up all this conflicting information, how we were kind of herded into believing that it was safe and effective when it turns out legally, by definition, it was ineffective and unsafe. So that's a whole can of bananas it's going to open up, I think.
yeah, there's a lot to it. I mean, yeah, that book is going well. It was there's a lot in there about how the Catholic Church was corrupted by Obama, Biden, and
I'm glad you put that in there because I've always gotten a kick out of, because I know you're a Catholic, and I've always gotten a kick out of Joe Biden always strutting around along with Nancy
yeah,
Pelosi like they're these super Catholics.
yeah.
And then they
Well,
go against like a third of this church doctrine.
that's right. And the reason they were super Catholics is they were tied into this guy named Theodore McCarrick. He was a
Yeah.
big political wheeler dealer out of the Catholic Church. He was the bishop of DC starting in 2000, 2001. Then he became a cardinal. He was very media savvy. He was always around the White House. I remember hearing all about him from President Bush after 9/11. He was like the Catholic voice of comfort. But he was a bad guy. He was abusing altar boys and seminarians for decades. And so he goes into the Obama years and they elevated him to being like a regular visitor into the White House, meeting with this guy, Dennis McDonough. Well, they worked that into what's now become Trump's war on the cartels. Because what I talk about in the book and what's really starting to come out to me that's is not shocking, but is a real sign of progress in the world is Trump has declared war on the cartels. Well, Biden and Obama were rewarding the cartels while they were smuggling drugs in the United States. And the way they rewarded them is they opened the borders. They had
Yeah.
all these kids show up at the border of the United States, unaccompanied minors in
Hmm.
2014. They said, well, we got to give money to the people in these governments. Well, the guy in Honduras, who was the president of Honduras, was one of the drug smugglers. He's now in
Yes.
prison for cocaine smuggling by the ton. He and his brother, Biden knew it.
Yeah.
I went to Honduras with Biden in 2012, and they
Hmm.
made a deal with the Honduran government while they were smuggling drugs in the United States,
And
cocaine by
people.
the ton.
And
So
people were being
that was
smuggled.
the opening of the cartels, and that became when they
Hmm.
got rid of Trump, and that was a big part of you know this sort of open border world that we've now faced. A lot of the urgency for it came out of the Catholic Church through the Pope, through this guy McCarrick, through Obama, and it
Wow.
infiltrated into Europe. It got along our southern border during the Biden years, and Trump came in and said we're putting up a wall, and now he's stopped it, and now he's going after the cartels. The Vatican doesn't like that. This is an old Vatican operation, moving these migrants around the world. They call them migrants; they're not illegals, and
Yeah.
that's that. So basically, what Trump is doing is he's attacking cartels as they smuggle drugs into America. He's attacking the cartel infrastructure that's been here for a long time. I think the cartel infrastructure was built up by elements of our government. I think the CIA had a big hand in it,
Oh God, yeah.
and so
It's such great cash. I mean, drugs is such great cash. I mean, the CIA, heck, they were doing that in World War II when it was the OSS. They were doing
yes,
illegal contraband smuggling to get cash for black ops because they couldn't go to Congress and say, "Hey, we want to assassinate this dictator and control this revolution or take over the government, and we need some money." So they said, We'll just set up our own budget.
That's right.
Maybe we'll
And
do
that
it. Maybe we'll
OSS,
do it in Mena, Arkansas. Perhaps that'll work.
right? They went into Maine, Arkansas. Well, that OSS office was run out of Rome, and it was run in conjunction with the Vatican.
Yes. Yes, I
And
forgot about that because of
yes,
the allies. And oh my goodness, I
yeah.
forgot about that.
So, I've got a couple of things we can talk about that briefly. So, I've written this in a couple of substacks, but what happened was in 1943, the OSS moved into Rome. They were working closely with the Vatican. And remember, the Catholic Church, they had bishops in Germany, they had
Mhm.
bishops in America, they had bishops in England. So, the Catholic Church was sort of the umbrella organization that had to manage a world war for its Catholic people. They had to sort of explain a world war to different
Right.
factions that were fighting each other.
And they were still at the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been out of the Catholic Church for a while. They were still in a missionary profile as well, especially in South America
Right.
and Africa and third world countries. They were very aggressive, like the evangelicals have become worldwide. But the Catholics used to lead the way in that, did they not?
They did. And that was so a big part of what happened with the rise of communism in Russia, in China, was they attacked the Catholic Church. They killed
Yeah.
millions of Catholics, priests, and I'm not sure if it was all Catholics or it was like Eastern Orthodox too
Hmm.
in Russia. But the communists murdered millions.
Oh my
And
God, the Bolsheviks, if you had a
yes,
cross or you even mentioned Jesus, you were going to a gulag or worse.
right. So that was in 1943. So 43, there's a guy who's working in Rome. His name is Angleton.
Hmm.
Angleton eventually moves up to be one of the top CIA
Yep.
counterintelligence guys. He's on the fringes of the Kennedy assassination. His name is very prominent in the cover up around it. And Angleton spoke fluent Italian. Angleton was working in the Rome, and this comes out later in testimony he did with the Senate in the 70s, the mid 70s. The Senate started investigating what were you guys in the CIA really up to.
Yeah.
Angleton tells them, "Well, I'm good friends with Pope Paul the Sixth. He was the current pope at the time in the 1940s." Pope Paul the Sixth was the Secretary of State for the Vatican, a guy named Montini. He's the guy that Angleton worked with as
Hmm.
they're doing all this stuff in the Vatican.
And this is
And
the era of Dulles and oh the guys that rolled out of the special ops in World War II, the OSS people. I forget some of their names. There was a general, and that's when it really got aggressive.
right,
And that's when the Cold War, it jumped off.
right,
And they did the same thing with the GWOT, Global War on Terror, but the Cold War jumps off, and the church would look the other way with a lot of things, right? That
right.
in Rome, because they were like, well, it's to take down communism, or
Yeah,
it's the ends justify the means. So we're not gonna. It's kind of like sometimes what the church did with the mob. Thanks
yes,
for building that new chapel,
yes,
Godfather.
yes, exactly. Well, one of the guys that was working in Rome and in Switzerland in this era was Theodore McCarrick. So he's the guy, he's working with these guys in the Vatican. He's working with the guys that are doing this sort of Vatican CIA connection. And
Mhm.
he moves up the ladder. He was a special project of this guy, Montini, who becomes Pope Paul the Sixth. He moves
Wow.
up the ladder all the way through all, and he's doing as he's doing this, he's doing terrible things to young kids
Hmm.
all along. And so then he eventually gets to be this guy who's doing stuff specifically with Obama and Biden in the
Wow.
Obama White House, and they're trying to open up the border for cartels to traffic drugs and human
And
trafficking.
yes, and children. Oh my God. And he made it as high as a cardinal.
Yeah,
Isn't
yeah,
that isn't that the next step as Pope
yeah. He
or
was
Arch? Archbishop is above or below cardinal? I forget.
Cardinal is the highest next to Pope. They're the
Yeah.
ones that select the Pope, the
Yeah.
cardinals. He was forced to retire at age 75 in like 2005.
Okay.
So when he was
So
doing all this work with the Obama Biden people, he was a retired cardinal. But he was paid by he was supported by the State Department in the 90s to go around the world as an emissary of religious freedom. So he was working closely with the U.S. government for a long time.
oh my God.
Very, very sordid story, this guy.
And he pretty much walked, right?
He's dead. He died in April.
But I mean, he before he was prosecuted for anything or no?
Yeah, he was deemed basically what happened to Joe Biden. He was deemed
Yeah.
too old and too infirm to be able to be prosecuted. He couldn't defend himself.
I'm a little bummed out about that. I know it's not the Christian thing to be, but I'm so disappointed that so many of these evil men become old and frail, and that's their get out of justice free card. I get
Yeah,
so, not that I want to beat up on old men, but Joe's a drooling fool. He was for the last 3 or 4 years, and
right.
some of the stuff he did. I mean, how many more pictures do I need with little kids?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
There's so many. Well, you're like an expert on Biden, and you know him firsthand, but there's so many avenues you can go down with this guy. You got the
yeah.
money laundering, you got the nepotism, you got
Right,
the energy deals, the Ukraine deals, the
right.
quid pro quo, and then to make everything even more horrific, you've got this pedophilia stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, did I ever tell you a story? So one time, my wife and I were invited to his naval observatory for a Christmas party in
He wasn't
2000,
he wasn't naked
2013.
in the pool, was he?
No, this was
Okay.
Christmas time. So, he did do that,
Oh, I
unfortunately. He was a
know.
weird guy.
He didn't do it in front of you guys, so
No. So,
only the
anyway,
help.
we're there at this Christmas party. We had our pictures taken. He was kind of weird taking a picture with my wife. We never got the picture, I think, because he made her so uncomfortable. She kind of scowled and they didn't like the picture, so they didn't give it to her.
Really? That's too funny. I would love to have that picture.
Well, we never
The
got it. So,
scowling
yeah, just
employee
like, what are you
wife.
doing, And
Why are you touching me there?
yeah, all right. That's what it was. He saw her and he goes, "Come here, darling. You got to smile and let up the room." And he kind of grabbed her. And I
Geez,
stood
that
next to
sounds like
Jill, and
Clinton.
then we never got the picture. I was like, okay. So then later, we're standing at this refreshment table, and it was meager, but it was, we're at the White Vice President's thing.
It's
And I
funny
look
that you
up
say that. It was meager. I
because he's
picture
cheap.
yeah,
Because Joe Biden's cheap.
I pictured Jill going by and saying, "We're not giving that to the guest. Save that for our own party." That's how I envision Jill.
Right.
You know,
No, it was
they get
like
the
it
they
was
get
like,
the
oh
tap
yeah,
water.
give him whatever the budget calls for. A low budget calls for. It was cheap. Joe's cheap, right? So we're standing there. It was meager, and I look up, and there's Joe Biden standing in front of me, and there's a bunch of little kids there, like young children in their party best, who were the
Okay.
children of the guests. And there's two stairways in the White House. And that wasn't the White House. Sorry, that was the Naval Observatory. There's two
Yeah.
stairways. There's a main grand stairway. There's a back stairway.
Oh, there always is.
He's right by the back stairway. He goes, "Hey kids, you want to go upstairs and see my dog?" And they're jumping up and down. They're going, "Yeah, yeah, yeah."
Oh my
He
God.
goes zip up the back stairways, and the kids go with them. And I'm standing there. I'm literally like 10 meters, not 10 feet away, just 10 feet away. I'm looking at them like, whoa, there's no Secret Service with them. There's no other staffers with them. There's no parents with them. It's just Joe and all these kids. The dog is in his bedroom. That's his bedroom suite. The stairway goes right to
Oh
his bedroom suite. I look
God.
across the hall of the room, and all of a sudden, sprinting across the room comes my boss at the time, the press secretary. Her name is, I can't remember, Kendra Barkoff.
Okay.
Kendra Barkoff's white as a sheet. All the color drained from her face. She is sprinting up the
She's the
stairs.
vice president press secretary, and
Press secretary at the time.
probably knows what The Rock is cooking right now.
Yep, exactly. She is right behind him. Never heard any more about it. But that's what happened.
Hey,
Hey
kids,
kids, want to
come
go
up and
upstairs? Want to go upstairs to see my dog? Yeah.
it's in my bedroom where dogs live.
Yeah, that's right. And he would later talk about, Joe Biden couldn't stop oversharing his private information. So
Yeah.
he would later talk about, yeah, there's another stairway in the U, because I didn't go there that often. I was there as a guest or once in a while as a worker. I didn't
Hmm.
know there was a separate stairway. And he would say, yeah, and it goes up to mine and Jill's quarters. We got a little kitchen up there. That's our bedroom quarters. That's where my dog is. Major, my dog. People love Major. That's what it was.
And wasn't
That's,
Major one of the biters?
Major was, oh no, this was Champ. I'm sorry. Major was the biter.
Yeah,
Champ,
Major and another one. And Major bit like, didn't he bite like 13 people or something? It
yeah,
turned out a total of 13 people.
yeah. Major was a bad, typical Biden carelessness.
Major was a bad dude.
Yeah, that's
He was
right.
like corn pop.
Yeah, he was a Joe Biden product. So yeah, that's Joe
Oh
Biden.
my God.
Just undisciplined. And this is 2013. So I know
Wow.
from that point on, there's no way Joe Biden is ever going to be president because he doesn't have the personal discipline or the sense
Right.
to not be stupid like that in a party where people are
Mhm.
witnessing it.
And this
And
was during
yet,
that era of, well, there's so many Indians running these 7-Elevens. That was that era too, right?
yeah,
Where he was
that's
saying
right. That
stuff
was
like
about 4
that.
years after that. Yeah,
Yeah, Obama's clean and he's well spoken. And
right.
remember all
Same
that crap?
Same Joe Biden. That's the guy. And there's no way that guy would ever been elected president, except we had a pandemic and he had to hide in his basement and no one saw him for 6
Right.
months.
And then we
Yeah.
did a little steely.
Yep.
And then his brain deteriorated to the point where they could get Jill or Obama to run him from an earpiece.
Right.
I mean, I can't believe that was 13 because you think about how far he made it. And what do you think about the auto pen scandal? Now we're finding out that his auto pen was all over everything.
Yeah. I think, well, they're trying to pull back some of the stuff that he signed. I think that's going to be a tough one. But I think they've got some pretty good information that there were auto pen actions done when he was not in the country or nowhere near it, and he didn't give them
Wow.
authorization. So if
Wow.
there's unauthorized use of the auto pen and they
Yeah.
can prove it, they pull back those whatever it is. It could be pardons, it could be some executive orders or something. Well, that's a significant step in the right direction.
I
So
heard
yeah,
President Trump say something, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it jumped out at me because I'm so used to his rhythm and his
right,
funnies and all this stuff that when something meaty jumps out and he said, you know, and he was talking, Trump has those weird moments of empathy or compassion. They just come out of,
yeah, right,
they just come out of nowhere. And he goes, Joe's had a tough time of it. And this auto pen thing, I knew Joe Biden for many, many years. And some of those things that the auto pen signed, I don't even think he knew what was going on because I don't think Joe would have done that.
yeah,
And that was his exact wording. And I'm like, he just pretty much opened the door for a defense, but it's probably true.
yeah,
It's probably true because if you go back and you listen to Joe Biden on crime and Joe Biden going off on the Senate floor like 30 years ago, we shouldn't have these illegals in this
right,
country. I mean,
right,
and now you're looking at what the hell happened? We got girls with male junk and the rainbow
right,
flag. What's happening?
right.
I think his brain got hijacked a little.
He was so I went and looked into, there was a brief flash of Joe Biden news when they released the audio of a little portion of the audio of his interview with the special counsel. What was the guy's name? The Asian guy from Baltimore did
Oh,
it.
was that part of the Jan 6 thing or was it something else?
No, it was when they were looking at, was Joe Biden the special counsel. They had a special counsel in Joe
Oh,
Biden,
was he selling influence? Was that the
something
one?
like that. Yeah, and
It's hard to keep track, Mike. I mean, he's had a stack of crap on him. I'm sure.
or special counsel, or I think that was his name, or
Oh
um,
yeah, and his wife is also in government
no,
too.
that's a different guy.
That oh, you're thinking Nellie Orr?
Yeah, she's not the person I'm thinking of. But
Okay.
so special counsel investigates Biden. He does an interview with him in October of 2023. So right
Okay.
before he's to be elected, and they're still saying Joe's got it all together. The interviews he did. Oh, it was about top secret clearance stuff. What they found in Joe Biden's house that was top secret
Oh,
that they
that's
shouldn't have.
right.
Remember that
Yeah.
guy?
Yeah, yeah.
So he does, and it's a 5 hour interview. So I read through the transcript. It's a really revealing transcript. Joe basically is okay. His lawyer was doing a lot of answering. The lawyer was married to the woman who did a lot of the auto pen stuff in his office.
Ah.
So this is October 2023. Joe is being sort of ushered through this interview. But one of the things he said in the interview was really significant to me. They asked him about a letter that he wrote to Obama in 2009 around Thanksgiving. It was a big, long letter about Afghanistan. And
Hmm.
in the letter, Biden writes to Obama, we're going to kill Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. So this is November of 2009. They already knew they were going to kill Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. They knew where he was. And
Whoa.
it's in this special counsel investigation transcript.
And
They
that is
discuss it
years before, is it not? How many years before that?
2 years before that.
Holy moly. So they sat on bin Laden for 2 years.
More than that, I think. In
Unbelievable.
Pakistan. They knew where he was. They knew where he was.
And
And
why is it that we're talking, you and I are discussing this on a podcast on a guy in a bunker in Pennsylvania, and mainstream media wasn't all over that like white on rice. I mean, if that wasn't a big thing, and people like myself, and I consider myself a conspiracy analyst, I've been on this stuff, and so have you, for years.
right.
Like they knew ahead of time, and there were other countries involved with this, and January 6th was a false flag. Then we find out last month 287 FBI agents,
Right.
287 in
Right.
the Jan 6 crowd, and nobody covers it.
Yes.
Does that drive you as crazy as it drives me? I mean, it's just so frustrating.
It's and these are the people I worked alongside in the White House when I was a stenographer, and they were the reporters. They just sort of shrug it off. Yeah,
Well,
they're
unless
terrible
it
people.
benefits them, or
They're paid to
unless,
cover this.
yeah.
They're paid to cover for the criminals. They're really paid because it's a total sellout. I actually got in a big argument on Substack with one of the former White House luminaries, a guy named Ron Fournier.
Oh,
He was
yeah.
he was an Associated Press guy, and
Yup.
he left the beat in 2003. And
I remember him.
I was writing a Substack about former White House correspondents who now do Substacks, and his name popped up. And I read an old Substack that he had about it. He was mad at Trump for calling it for banishing Associated Press from the pool.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
And from the Oval Office because they wouldn't accept the Gulf of America name. They call it Gulf of Mexico. It's not Gulf. So he had this really snide sort of Trump's fascist thing. So I commented on his Substack, and I said, dude, you sold out. Here's my book. You should read it. You sold out. So he gets in an argument with me, right? He's like, you seem nice. So I got right back and I said, dude, you sold out. You were the first one to sell out. And we got in this big argument back and forth. It went on and on. Eventually said, look, you seem like good luck. He goes, I can complain about Trump. It's my country. And I said, it's our country. You're writing it as though you're being clever to make everybody think it's your country and you're the one that can speak for all of us, and you can't. And that's when he stopped sort of arguing with me. He said, "Go your way. I'm going my way. Get out of my timeline." That was it.
Translation: I've lost the argument now. I got to go pull my tail out from my rear end.
Yeah, but
You know what I
that's
would? Why didn't he read your book?
they would never do that. They would never do that.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing when I talk to people, no matter what we're talking about, no matter what issue, whether it's Trump, Israel, Afghanistan, Ukraine, I'll say, "Hey, did you ever read this book by what I've recommended? I recommend your books all the time." And like I said, I remember reading your very first book and talking
Yeah,
about it on my radio show years and years and years ago. And I just used it as a like a shield of armor because of your credibility. And people would call me, "Where are you getting this stuff? You just make this up." I said, "Look, read this book. Let me know what you think." And nobody wants to read a book. They want to Google something or fact check
yeah,
it. And then they
right,
want to, then they think they can come on stage and debate for 4 hours about foreign policy because they
right,
read a page of Wikipedia.
right. That's right. And so, and that's what feeds the shield that the Joe Biden's can hide behind. Joe Biden, the guy
Hmm.
who's inviting these kids up in his bedroom, can hide behind that and still think, "Hey, I can get elected president in 2016." And it fell apart because his son died. But then he and his
Yeah.
goofball goons, his operatives, are like,
Yeah.
"Well, we can pull something. We're going to put together a couple of impeachments of this new President Trump. Trump doesn't know what he's doing. We got our people in there messing with him." It's just insidious. So yeah, I'm glad the government is shut down. We'll see where it all goes.
I don't think anybody is noticing.
They're
True,
not
truly.
the people here in DC are noticed. What I've started to do is I start listening to the left wing news radio here,
Isn't that fun?
WTOP.
Oh, isn't
WTOP.
that fun?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it is unbelievable. It's like
I
you get the
auditioned.
lead where this is where all the operatives want the start narrative to go. You can
Yeah,
hear it ahead of time. Food
about
banks are opening now in DC. It's getting really bad for the government
yeah.
people. Food banks are opening,
Oh
and
my God.
blah 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 blah. And it's like, come on, they.
That was crazy. That's an interesting market. I WBAL in Baltimore, I interviewed and auditioned for them about, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago. And it is so swampy down there. Baltimore's very swampy too.
Right.
Um, and that was before it started to clean up. Remember when there were the riots down there, and then the mayor was saying, remember when the mayor was saying, let them have their space. They need
Yeah.
time to vent. Remember? And they
Right.
burnt down the CVS.
Right.
And then that
Well,
mayor ended up getting indicted and stuff.
yes.
And
Right.
oh, it was just that is such a crazy, crazy world. Um, Now, has tourism picked up again in DC because of the security aspect? I know now that the shutdown has probably put a kink in a lot of schedules, but I mean, what I saw on in the media was, to me, it was very cool. I saw all different ages getting pictures with the National Guard from around the
Yeah.
country, and I just that stuff kind of that charges me up. I love seeing that. People paying respect to law enforcement, paying respect to the military, and being
Yeah.
proud of the flag.
That's going well. DC's safer. It's safer. My kids are in and out of the city now, and I don't worry about it like I used to. Like my daughter was talking about going in there with her friends. I was like, look, don't ever get on a bus. Don't get on a subway. If a bunch of kids run on a subway, get off. Because there were videos all the time of kids, like gangs, jumping on a subway and sort of
Yeah,
mashing somebody. And,
yeah.
you got to be real careful.
That
So,
happens. That's happening every day all over the country, and the media. It's actually an epidemic, and
right.
unfortunately, a lot of it is what we're not allowed to talk about. But there's a lot of, and this worries me, and I don't know if it's an I'm just seeing it more now because I'm doing more research for my podcast, but the black on white crime, the youth black on white crime is so over the top. And I can't help but wonder if that came out of the sentiment of the last 4 years. of Biden and Kamala and the whole white privilege and white man's the problem, and and I just wonder if young black people in particular felt empowered like they did under Obama, when Obama said, the police acted stupidly.
Right.
And for 4 years, we had members of Congress saying, F the police and everybody's a fascist. And, I wonder
I
if
think
that
it.
emboldened them.
I think it was more. I think it's more a result of the courts didn't. They didn't police young kids. The kids really started going out of control. There was a couple of videos. I remember seeing one video by a guy in DC when they brought in the National Guard. He was probably in his 30s. He was talking about how good it was. He said, I used to run with the gangs,
Hmm.
and the young kids were going too far with it. And now you got this. He said, this is better. This is where it has to be. We have to have this sort of security about our city that we didn't have.
Yeah.
The young gang, the kids, because kids were going and not getting held accountable for it. The
Yeah.
the judicial system here, you could go into like youth programs and just sort of get let go, or halfway houses, or and it was awful. So there
That's
were some
almost,
real bad cases of like young girls carjacking people and
oh,
killing them
yeah.
in
I was just
cars
going to
and stuff.
say that's almost a tactic. That's been a tactic with the cartels and, in places like Brazil
Yeah,
and Mexico for years.
right,
And a lot of us first discovered it, covering it in the 80s during the Miami Vice years, where they thought, you know what, instead of having mama transport the drugs, have, little Jorge transport the drugs. And then if he
right,
gets caught, he's 13 years old. He got two keys on him. He's not going to go to jail for
right,
distribution.
right.
And but I'm sure you saw the two girls that carjacked the guy and they killed him. They, in DC. This is probably several years ago, but
Yeah, that was
two
4 or 5
teenage
years ago.
girls, and there
Yeah,
was a shootout, and he ended up. It was horrible. And then
yeah,
when they got arrested, the attitude was like, one was 15, I think, and the attitude
yeah,
was like, "What are you going to do? I'll be
yeah.
out next week."
And that was back in so it was defund the police. The DC
Yep.
council was defund the police. So your question was, is tourism getting better? I think it is with
Yes.
the National Guard here. And I feel like the city is safer. They've definitely got rid of some of the homelessness. Um, uh, and there's a lot of kind of the paid protesters are still on the prowl around trying to push back. But Trump is doing a great job, and it just keeps his momentum. What he's just done in Israel, I think that
Hmm.
plays into it. I
Yeah.
personally, I think I saw what he did when he went to Sharm el Sheikh yesterday as
Hmm.
being significant, because neither of the Palestinians nor the Israelis were there. It was everybody else.
Well, that was the brilliance of Trump. He leads by coalition.
Yes.
And most leaders, the funny thing, they're always talking about Trump's ego and Trump's temper and Trump, Trump, Trump. But most leaders don't give up as much space as Trump is willing to give.
Right.
Like, he's on the dais. He's the big dog, but he wants everybody else up there.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't do that. Like, Obama didn't. Obama had no time for that crap. It
Right.
was like the
So,
Obama show
you
or
know,
nothing.
yeah. So I was in Sharm el Sheikh with the White House in 2003 because Bush did the exact same thing Trump
And
did.
this is Egypt for people, right?
And this is Egypt. It's right at
Yep.
the edge of the Red Sea. It's
Yeah, that's
actually
right.
really it's a pretty cool resort. If you ever get a chance to go there, take it. Um, but so we went to Sharm el Sheikh. It was the beginning of the 2003, global war on terror. We've just invaded Iraq. We are in charge. And he met a couple people there. And then he goes,
Who was meeting? You said?
Bush was meeting, and I can't remember. I think he just met the Egyptians there. And then he goes to Jordan. He goes to Aqaba, Jordan, and he
Right.
meets with the Israeli Sharon and Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinians. And they did
Hmm.
this little ceremony where they walk across this wooden bridge they built. That's 20 years ago, 22 years ago. And this was him this was Bush being the prominent guy who brings one or two people in, not all
Yep.
of them. Turkey wasn't involved. Trump brought Turkey in there. He brought Egypt in there all at the same time. And they had one day and they had a big bunch of talk. I think what the countries did is they got together and they said, you know what? This is different. This is different now. We've got a chance to have a say in this
Hmm.
more than we've ever had. Turkey got listened to, and Trump talked about it in his speech. Turkey was a big help. I don't remember if it was a speech or remarks afterwards, but Turkey was a big help. Qatar was a big help, and
And he
so
paid a lot of respect to these men, especially the guy from Turkey. I forget his name, but it wasn't just
Erdogan,
yeah, it wasn't just a throw out line.
right?
It was a gracious appreciation and handshake and shoulder of, you really helped move the dial here, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a new thing. We didn't see that 20 years ago. We didn't see
It
that for 20
also
years.
it shows the rest of the world that he's a coalition builder. I mean, I said today on my show that he's got to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest deal makers ever, because it's not just in his books, but his whole career is, well, Trump's done. He's done by Friday, man. He's not coming out of this. Whatever. Every day, someone's saying that about Trump.
Right, right, right.
Every election, every deal, he'll never get a building that big. It won't be allowed. There's no
Right.
way there's going to be a thing there. There's no way there's going to be a coliseum there. And it
Yeah,
just time and time again, he comes out of the room and there's like 18 people with him and they're all laughing and high fiving. It's like, what the?
yeah, yeah, right. He's got the tech titans with him, and then the next week
Yeah.
he's got a bunch of college kids who are playing football or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But
I
I
pray
think
there's going to
so.
be peace.
So quickly, just back to this piece. He brings all these people in. The question is, why did they come? Why did they come to see Trump? And I think what it is behind the scenes, Turkey, Jordan, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Egypt know that he's pulling money out of what used to be paid for, so that the money is shifting. I think what this is my interpretation, this is my own goofy interpretation, but they're
Mhm.
seeing the way that America is changing its spending,
Mhm.
its deep state spending. So it's pulled back from sponsoring, because America, like I went to Israel in 2016 with Joe Biden. We
Mhm.
went to Ramallah. We took a back street trip to Ramallah from Tel Aviv. It was like about 15 miles. It's not very far. We're
Mhm.
driving this back dirt road in these up armored vans. There was a Palestinian police guy with an automatic weapon every 50 yards, all the way through on this journey. And I
Mhm.
talked to the guy next to me. He was a Wall Street Journal reporter. I go, man, the Palestinian police really came out for Biden and he's like, well, you're paying for him. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, you guys pay for the Palestinian police force, and they basically are terrorists. So we were funding the Israelis and we were funding the Palestinians to have a war and do terrorism with each other. And I think what happened with this thing yesterday in Sharm el Sheikh, Trump said, we're not doing that. We're not
He
giving
got to
money to
look. He
both
got to look at
sides.
the. He got to look at the. What do you call it? The logs or the spending records, and probably said, "What? Wait a minute.
Yeah. I mean,
I
that's
thought Ahmed was over here. Ahmed's over there.
right. I mean,
So
that's
we've got
what,
two
and
Ahmeds getting money.
yeah. And that's what they're doing with the cartels too. They're pulling the money away. There's been a lot of flow of money from American taxpayers to these entities, that these
Mhm.
entities then just sow chaos around the world. And I think what these other countries just sort of stand on the sidelines and look at it and go, you Americans are so weird. And all of a sudden they're looking at it and going like, okay, now you make more sense. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
get behind this because you're not putting money into the hands of the bad guys,
Mhm.
whether they're Israeli bad guys or Palestinian bad guys. We're not giving money to the bad guys to just go and hurt each other.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that's what it is. That's my
I think
theory. I hope that's what it is.
I think you've got something there. I mean, I think it's layers of money because there's been this I've always thought there's been this uncomfortable dynamic with Israel and the United States for the last 50 years, and it's always had to do with money and leverage and lobbyists and legalities and you know international law and all that stuff. One of the things I was most excited about recently was the blowing up of the cartel boats with the drugs on it.
Right.
I mean, that was so cool that he goes on TV and he says, "Look, if you try to bring any more drugs in on your boats from any of the cartel points, we're just going to kill you. We're going to blow you up." And he just
Yeah.
started doing it.
Right.
I'm like, that's how you roll right there.
Yeah.
That's
He's
how
like,
you
yeah,
roll.
they're having a tough time getting fishing boats out of Venezuela now, but that's too bad because they do too much stuff with drug runners. So yeah, he's not apologizing. That's some tough stuff.
See,
Yep.
I'd love to see our military and I'd love to see us the hell out of Ukraine, the hell out of the Middle East. But I would totally enjoy when the cartels are officially terrorist organizations sending in the military to get the cartels.
Well,
I would enjoy that. I would enjoy a live feed and and you could put it on pay per view to raise money. Say, hey, we're heading into wherever, and we're going after the such and such cartel. There's 4 tons of this there and that there, and we're the battalion of whatever, and boom. Gosh, can you imagine the fear they would feel?
well, and I think part of it too, and an important part of it is they have to stop the drug use here in America. They
Oh
got,
yeah.
you
Well,
know,
the
so
demand.
you want to get rid of the cartels. Just tell young kids don't do drugs. Don't
Well,
buy
and then the money
illegal
too. I
drugs.
mean, we've been funding illegal drug operations through the intelligence community, through the
Right.
State Department, and through the CIA since pre-Vietnam. We were doing it in Vietnam. It's how we got money to bomb Laos
Right.
because
Yeah.
that was totally off book,
Right.
you know. And
Yep.
and the intelligence community's been doing that. That's their game. Their game is, well, if the president doesn't go for it, screw him. We'll do it off book.
Right.
Like the flying the U-2, the U-2 surveillance plane. Remember that? The one
Yeah.
that crashed in, it's called a U-2, right? That big droopy looking thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one that crashed in at the time the Soviet Union, and Eisenhower knew nothing about it. And then it became an international thing because they got the pilot, they found the plane, and Eisenhower's like waking up and he's reading the newspaper and he's like, "What the?"
Yeah.
And he took a hit. He
Right.
took a hit, and that was one of the big things that got him to give that parting speech because he got burned so many
Oh,
times by the
interesting.
intelligence community, and so did Kennedy.
Yes.
Kennedy got burned on the Bay of Pigs,
Yes.
and he
Right.
got burned on. They said, "Well, we're going to do this, we're going to do this," and then all your guys and JFK. If you see the transcripts, they've been released. He constantly saying, "Well, what happens if that guy, if these people don't show up? Are they all going to be slaughtered and tortured?" Well, no,
Right.
no, no. We got their back. We got their back. And
Yeah.
then they all get slaughtered and tortured, and everybody hates Kennedy for it.
Right. Yeah.
So they're slimy snakes. I mean, they've got to get a handle on the intelligence community.
Well, and I think that's what the war that's what that speech at Quantico was. I mean, I
Oh yeah,
think
that was a good one.
right. I think you've got President Trump and his cabinet, and we see him on TV regularly talking
Yeah,
about what they're doing. They're
yeah,
very transparent, most transparent ever. And they went to the generals and they said, "You guys, you're going to start doing work. You're going to work the military differently." One of the things they're doing to get rid of the cartels is they're sending the National Guard into the cities. And that gets rid of cartel infrastructure that's already in these cities.
yeah,
Chicago, New York, it's here in DC. Memphis is talking about, and we're glad to see the
Right.
National Guard here. They're helping us out. We can go have our kids go out and play on the bikes. They're riding bikes in places they couldn't ride bikes before.
Yeah, I've seen that in several different news pieces, and to see a bunch of minority kids out spraying each other with water in a water fight and
Yeah,
riding their bikes around like
right.
you would see in Middle America in a 1960s newsreel.
Yeah, right.
That was like last week, or it was one of the last weeks that was relatively hot, and they were having a water fight, and then they said just a week ago this was needles and homeless and whatever, and they
Yeah,
did a before and after, and it was like, look at the transition or the transformation that Trump brings in. And that's the other thing about a guy that wants to build coalitions and doesn't really give a crap what people think. He's got people agreeing with him in the Democrat Party
yeah,
on
right,
certain things.
right.
And they're
It's
like, I think the biggest surprise was John Fetterman.
yeah,
Holy moly. I mean, I don't know if he fell down and hit his head or what, but if he says Trump is doing a good job or Trump was right on this and right on that anymore, they're going to kick him out of the party.
yeah. And he was happy about he was very pro. Let's get this Middle East peace process settled, and he backed Trump, and
Yeah.
he's reaping the rewards of being on the right side of history about that. Good for him. Yeah,
Yeah, and I don't have a problem with that. I mean,
right.
if I've learned anything from, electing Trump 3 times, not just as a voter and a patriot and a citizen, but someone in the media, it's just there's no more cookie cutter. There's no more. I just don't care about what the parties say anymore. I don't care about what I can't stand to listen to Mike Johnson. I'm sorry, that's just my thing. I can't stand to listen to Mitch McConnell. I can't stand
Right.
to hear any of them anymore
Right.
because they've been there for years and years and years and years and years.
Right.
And Trump's only on his 5th year as president.
Right. Yeah.
And when he's
Yeah.
not president, he's fighting to stay out of jail and he's trying not to have his family and his empire destroyed. But
Yeah.
he's only been in politics for 5 years.
Yeah. And he's put together look, the cabinet is strong. Marco Rubio, he's right, will go down in history as the best Secretary of State we've ever had. The difference, I mean, I used to work with Tony Blinken. I traveled to Russia with Tony Blinken.
Now, he comes off like an idiot to me. Is he?
He's just a smarmy operative who was
Okay.
a yes man to Joe Biden and rode his coattails to his dream job. Tony Blinken's dad was an ambassador, and Tony Blinken's dream job was to be the Secretary of State. And he knew
Wow.
if he and his goons alongside, there was a whole crew of them, were able to get Joe Biden in the White House, he'd be the Secretary of State.
My
His dream
God.
job. Ron Klain, got his dream job, a White House chief of staff. If they got Joe Biden in there and they put him in there, there was an interesting post I saw by Roger Stone the other day. I guess there's been a release of a investigation into this guy Mike Morrell. There was an email or something that he released between him and Brennan.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Recently, but in the email,
I know
this is the first I heard of it. They referred to Biden as like the vegetable,
Yes.
and this was
I think Stone put that. Yeah, Stone put that in his. He does a essay too. I fill in for Stone from time to time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, actually last month I filled in for him. No, the month before last I did a couple fill-ins on WABC. It's called the Stone Zone.
Yeah.
It's got, he's an older guy, obviously, because he was he was playing catch football with JFK, whatever, but he's been around a while. But his show has so much young energy.
No,
They call
good.
it the Stone Zone, and it opens with a soundbite of President Trump saying, "They tried to knock him down. They can't touch this guy. Stone. This is the Stone Zone." I mean, it's crazy.
Right.
It's like WWF.
Yeah, that's right.
And then Roger comes on and he just totally, because he's an older guy. So you have this big intro, and then Roger comes on and goes, "I just want to say that."
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But yeah,
No,
I
Stone's
remember
good.
that they called him the vegetable, and oh my God, so many other things. And then too, the conversations between Brennan and Clinton and Obama about don't worry about it, whether the whole Russian thing is true or not, it's still going to help us a lot. So let's keep pushing it. And
Yeah.
the fact that no one's getting heat for that yet. Of course, uh, Hillary's being called in, Obama's being called in as far as the Russiagate thing. They've all been subpoenaed. You knew that, right?
It's in front of Congress, right? It's like House Oversight or one of
Yeah, yeah.
those.
They've all been so it's interesting to see when you look at uh Comey, Brennan, Hillary. What do you think the Epstein thing? What do you think's going to happen with that? Do you think it's going to just go away? Or
I really I don't care about Epstein.
it's
I
interesting. Half the people I know say that. My mom says that. I just spoke to my mom recently, and she said nobody cares about Epstein anymore. And I said, well, see, I kind of think I would have been okay if he didn't make that comment about uh, he was gonna expose all this. Trump was.
yeah.
And then things got crazy, and we called out Pam Bondi, who gets tongue tied way too often.
Right.
I mean, recently, I don't know if you saw this last week on the House floor, and this kind of, I'll be honest, this kind of threw me off a little bit. Um, Pam Bondi was being questioned by, I think, Senator Whitehouse. Is there a Senator Whitehouse?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Right. Sheldon
yeah,
Whitehouse.
yeah. So, and he said, have you or have you not seen pictures of Donald Trump with young girls topless sitting on his lap at an Epstein event? And she just would not answer it.
Right.
And it really, did you see that? Yeah,
I
it
did
really
see that.
bothered
Yeah.
me. What
Right.
that bothered me. This is why it's kind of like, God, if I don't mind if someone says, all right, enough, let's put it to rest. Well, then put it to rest. Then put it to rest. They can
Yeah.
put it to rest. It's not my job to put it to rest.
Right.
I wasn't part of a list. I didn't hang with the guy. It slowly gets turned on the messenger, which bothers me. But when she did that, all she had to do was say no, no, Senator. I've never seen that. But
Right.
she kept pivoting. I mean, what
Yep.
did you think of that as a journalist and an author? I just thought, what was
I
that all
thought, why
about?
is she not answering the question?
Yeah. And then what does that do to millions of people who see that? Now they're not going to see it when it's live, but they see it regurgitated.
Right.
They go, why didn't she just say no? I mean, did she see something that she's not telling us about?
Well, and it also, raises the question, if they do have that, why didn't they put those photos out earlier? I mean, if they have that,
Exactly.
if
Yeah.
Sheldon Whitehouse has that
Because
in
there's
somewhere,
probably something
where
worse
did
on
it come
Sheldon.
from? Where did it come from, and why did it just pop up now?
Yeah.
So, okay, in the era of AI and super fake and
Yeah, see, that's the other thing you got to be careful with, and that's something that really that scares me for and for your kids. Mine are just a little older than yours. They're in their
right,
early 20s. I mean, AI is going to change the entire landscape of criminal investigation and search and seizure. It's terrifying that you can and everybody gave up their DNA. They were nice enough to say, "Sure, swab my nose."
right, right.
They all have our DNA, and well, I didn't give mine up, but I'm sure they have it from something.
Yeah, they
And
have
it
mine.
it scares me that they can put Mike McCormick, on a beach with all the Playboy bunnies naked, and you never even went to that island.
Right.
And then
Yeah,
you've got to spend money to defend yourself.
right. Yeah. So, yeah, we got to be, yeah, I think we'll see what happens. Epstein to me is um,
Well, obviously,
a small return for all
yeah,
the effort that's being put into it. There's
I
just
was going to
not,
say, obviously, there's bigger fish to fry now,
yeah,
like things like peace and the economy and the government, stuff like that, obviously.
yeah,
I just don't want the child trafficking and the human trafficking to fall by the wayside, because there was a while it got a lot of profile. Remember, there was a couple movies out on it, and there were these organizations, and Trump was very, very vocal about it during sections of his campaign. And it just got, I think it gave a lot of hope to a lot of people, especially victims, you know?
Well, that's what that whole cartel, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, letting the kids across the border thing. I mean, look, hats off to the FBI and Tom Homan's crew. I'm not sure if that's ICE or who, but
yeah, he's running ICE now.
Yeah, they come out with actual statistics of this many kids we found and reunited with their family.
Oh yeah, yep.
So that's underway. It's happening.
Yeah, and they just arrested 1,500 illegals in, I think it was Minnesota. I mean, they're scooping up these chunks, these big numbers.
Wow.
1,500 here, 1,100 there, 270 there. So they're definitely making some arrests.
They're making arrests, and it's having an impact. So as someone who lives in D.C., the swamp, where there is a pretty high illegal immigration community, it's emptied out. There's a sense of in small businesses far and around in my area, there's a lot of people who are at work standing around looking out the window because there's not a lot of work. I mean, they're on the clock. They're either in a restaurant or in a little retail operation, but there's just no customers. Like, the customers are light in grocery stores. Customers are light.
Why
there's not as many?
Is that the economy? Is that the crime?
I don't know. I just feel like I've noticed it. I'm like, there's not many customers right now. Traffic is still backed up. There's still a fair amount of traffic. Some of it is that people are working from home and they're not going into work. But I mean, the government shut down and nobody's on,
Well, that's true. I mean, that's pretty much the biggest employer, like, on the planet, isn't it?
Right.
Especially in your neck of the woods. Because I was just going to start inviting myself to visit you, because it just sounds very nice there, and I haven't been there in a while. And I love going to Washington in the fall, like Arlington in the fall, and the monuments in the fall. I love walking around Washington, D.C., the shops, and eating breakfast maybe out when it's just cold enough, like 50.
Yeah.
50 and sunny.
Right.
You keep your jacket on, you have your coffee and your breakfast outside. There's so many outside cafes.
Yep.
So I'll call you next weekend.
I guarantee there'll be an empty table. You don't have to wait in line. That's what's missing. There's no lines.
Wow. See, I'm thinking, and that's what I'll do. I'll call you next week, invite myself out.
Okay.
And then I can take you to an empty table.
Yeah, we'll find one.
Well, it was great catching up with you. There's so much more to talk about. I want to start having you on more regularly, because you're still are you still plugged in do you still have people in places that you can trust? I mean, do you still have connections that trust you and you trust them, or has most of the people you've worked with rotated out, or?
I go through documents and I go through what I remember of working there. I don't really have many contacts in it anywhere.
Okay.
Sometimes things will sort of pop up and I find them, like I, kind of popped up looking at things in the Barack Obama's library in Chicago that turned weird this summer. I was writing my Substack. My Substack is kind of it just develops. I don't really have a big plan. So the next Substack I'm going to write about is actually it came out of, I was looking into they were changing things behind the scenes at the Obama library. And I
remember that.
Yeah. And they dug into it. I dug into it, and it was like they were covering stuff up. So I looked into it and I found actually something. It's either they made a mistake or they didn't do a good job of covering something up. But there was a video, I'll do a Substack on this, put out by the White House, at the White House briefing room about 11 years ago, so 2014, right before Hunter Biden comes out publicly and says he's going to do this big job with this fracking company in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
John Podesta walks in the White House briefing room and says, "We love fracking. We in the White House, the Obama White House, we love fracking. We have an all the above energy program. Fracking is doing great for America's energy industry, and we've never exported more oil in our history." In a White House briefing, and no one remembers
Podesta.
it.
Yeah.
Right? What happened?
He's another slime ball.
Yeah. So I'll have
him and
that.
his brother Tony.
Yeah. So you can look forward to that on my Substack.
But there wasn't, was it your article or was it another article that said there have been changes in the Obama library content?
Yes, that was my article.
That
right?
was your article. Okay. Because that's how the game is played. I mean, that's
Right.
what totalitarian governments do. We'll just change this history.
Yeah. So,
know.
and I got in touch with them. I said, "Hey, there's something wrong here. Why are you doing this?" And they got back and said, "Oh, we're sorry. There was a little glitch in the process and we fixed it." So I went back and looked and see if they fixed it. There are some things that are missing that used to be there because I used to do, when I wrote these books, that's where I did a lot of my research. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, always a pleasure having you on. Mike McCormick, author, journalist, and fellow patriot who lives in the swamp and wants you to come and visit him because there's not enough people in the swamp anymore. Mike's getting lonely out on the street.
Yep. Come on down. We'll have some fun.
Yeah. Have a great weekend. And thanks again for coming on, Mike.
All right, Ken. Thanks so much.